Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Damien with Rosieside Farm. It's time for our Zone 7B Market Garden Update. It is June 27th, 2023, so almost July. We've got the cows here, probably going to start mooing soon because they act like they never eat. And something we haven't shown in our videos, this was our volunteer pumpkin garden that the pigs planted for us. So I've been throwing all kinds of stuff in here when a plant start isn't kind of suitable to sell, but still is plenty good, will definitely produce. I'll throw it in here. So there's some okra in here. I put some corn in here. There's some tomatoes back there. So we're just kind of letting this thing go, not messing with it, not weeding it, rarely water it, and hopefully these volunteers will produce. So our most recent succession of tomato planting are Brandywines that I planted down this trellis. And I did plant them, so they are going to get shade. So I was hoping that shade might help them as the summer goes along. It starts to get hot, 90s every day, they'll have a little bit of shade. So shade can be a good thing, shade can be a bad thing. So just kind of experimenting with it. And at the end of this trellised row are some green zebras. So the first time planting them, we'll see how they do. Heading on to our squash and zucchini. So the ones that are getting that little partial shade are definitely smaller than the others that get full sun. There go the cows. But we have harvested quite a few zucchini and squash. And the tomatillos that are growing between them are doing all right. But we have had quite a bit of bug pressure on some. You'll see we're going to lose some plants here. Should probably just rip them out of the ground. But there are some squash there that are probably overdue to harvest. And so we have, here we go. There's a zucchini that is done for. And this zucchini plant looked terrible yesterday, but maybe it rebounded. We are finally starting to get some rain. So maybe the regular moisture is helping them out. Here was our second succession of tomatoes. And these are the Celebrity Pineapples, Carolina Golds, some beefsteak in here. And they are next to some volunteer ground cherries that we're just going to let grow. One thing that has become a problem, well, not really a problem, it is what it is I raised this trellis with the thought that the plants would grow up to the trellis and then I could start trellising them. But I'm not doing that anymore. The trellises are going to go right on the ground, start tying them up early because it's kind of gotten a little out of control. And there are plenty of tomatoes on the vine. As you see my finger. Plenty of tomatoes on the vine, but this was our second succession, so I'm not planning on those being ripe anytime soon. And some more volunteer ground cherries everywhere throughout the entire property. So this area here is for my succession planting. So here, probably this week, I'm going to burn some holes and plant a couple of tomatoes, a couple of peppers, a couple of cucumbers, just so as the summer goes on, we'll have a steady source of produce. These are our white tomatoes that have, well, they're not really curling now. They were curling quite a bit. That had that leaf curl I was worried about. I pruned them. We still had leaf curls. Now I'm just leaving them alone and they're doing fine. A volunteer tomato, which is going absolutely nuts. Down our line of white tomatoes and into our beefsteaks. So our beefsteaks, we are getting quite a few on the vine. Now this line of peppers, we have a pepper there on a very small plant. But the peppers that are on this side of the tomatoes don't seem to be doing as well as the other side. And we'll show you those in a minute. Maybe it's because they're being shaded from the tomatoes on one side and shaded from this tree on the other side. So maybe they get limited sunlight. But there are tomatoes being put on down our jungle of beefsteak tomatoes. And if you look carefully, there is one tomato starting to get color. Our eggplant have exploded and they're starting to put on those purple flowers, so there should be eggplant coming. And Old Reliable, our jalapenos, we are getting jalapenos. They will be ready to harvest for this week's market. So we have a long line of jalapeno plants because they're always a favorite at the market. Look at these tomatoes. So it's really just a waiting game right now for these tomatoes to start putting on some color. So these are our pineapple tomatoes. They're doing well. I mean, it's kind of all the same. We're getting plenty of tomatoes on the vine. And our line of peppers that are next to them is some California Wonders, some Red Knights, just different varieties of bell peppers. Look at these tomatoes. These are the Black Krim. So these pepper plants are looking a lot healthier than on the other side, something I have to remember for next year. And we're putting on peppers. We have our next tomato trellis. And these first 4 plants, I went back and looked at one of my previous videos. At first, I thought this entire trellis was cherry tomatoes or small tomatoes, but the first 4 are something that we put on called pink red tomatoes. We bought them as starts from a local nursery, and they are very prolific. We picked some to sell as green tomatoes at the market. I pickled some green tomatoes, but just because the plants were so stressed, they had so many tomatoes on them. So here's our yellow currant or spoon tomatoes that are just growing completely wild, impossible to trellis. And our pepper plants, we have plenty of peppers on them, just waiting them to get to market size. Heading into our Lady Bell green peppers, and we picked some green peppers and sold them at the market this past weekend. We're hoping to have more this weekend. And our line of trellised cucumbers, I picked about 8 to 12 cucumbers yesterday, and they just start coming just so prolific with cucumbers. There's cucumbers down there. So I picked a bunch, and I probably missed some because you always miss some. So heading over, we have a little area here of kind of miscellaneous squash. So in here, there are patty pan squash. There are, I believe, just regular yellow crookneck squash. We have some butternut squash in here. And haven't been paying them a whole lot of attention, but it looks like they're taking root. And I mean, these are very, very recent. Just put these in the ground not too long ago. Moving up to our weeds and our volunteer tomatoes. The volunteers doing a good job volunteering. Here's one I haven't had a chance to stake up that also has some tomatoes on the vine. To our line of trellised cucumbers. These are the most recent we put in, so they're going to be a little while before they start producing, but they're doing okay. Here's a line of weeds, nothing yet. I'm going to put something in there. I put some beans in, some green bushing beans, so they're starting to take off. With our volunteer tomatoes, of course. Then we have our marigolds and cucumber trellis. So these cucumbers are starting to take off. They'll be fruiting soon. And I think I just saw a cucumber beetle on there, which unfortunately is unavoidable. But I'm working now to train these up the trellis. We've got the cows over there mooing like they've never eaten before in their life. They're gonna get a little scoop of grain here in a minute. Into our tomatillos. So our tomatillos, our sea of tomatillos, we have a lot of lanterns on there ready to put off some fruit. Into some white eggplant that are starting to put on some fruits. There's a couple of white eggplant in here mixed in with a couple of okra, which I just did a bad job I stuck an okra in here for some reason. I don't know why. It should be a yellow eggplant, and over there, I'm sorry, a white eggplant. Into our okra, which is starting, I mean, these weeds. So anywhere there's a little gap in the landscape fabric, we are getting massive weeds now that it started to rain. So that's it for this week's update. So we will have produce at the farmer's market this week, whether it just be some cucumbers and peppers, probably not tomatoes. We'll bring a couple of baskets of green tomatoes, zucchini and squash. So we're still selling some plant starts. It's zone 7B. We still have 140-ish days left until our first frost. You can plant anything you want to plant right now and you're going to get a harvest. But as that's starting to dwindle, our sale of plants, we're hoping our produce kind of steps it up. So check us out next week. Stay with Rosy Side Farm. See you.